Yesterday's attacks on Israel came 50 years plus 1 day after another set of surprise attacks, the ones that began the 1973 Yom Kippur War. We continue our coverage with Tzipi Livni, Israel's former foreign minister and justice minister. She joins me from Tel Aviv. Welcome, Tzipi Livni. Let me ask you to begin with about the magnitude of this intelligence and security failure, because we are comparing it often to the Yom Kippur War, but in some ways it strikes me as even greater. Yom Kippur War was a failure to see what was happening in foreign capitals. This is Gaza. This is a place that Israel occupied for decades. This is a place that Israel still has a tight blockade on, security controls on. What do you think happened? How was the IDF taken so much by surprise?
Well, it took us by surprise, unfortunately, but yet there will be time for inquiries the day after. But I want to make another difference between the situation now and the Yom Kippur War, because we are speaking about a war now, but Hamas didn't wage war. In war, you have some limitations, rules, laws. What Hamas did was a massacre. In a dreadful manner against civilians, children, women, families. So when we are speaking about asymmetrical war between a state, a country, and terrorist organization, it's not just something very technical. This is what we are facing: terrorist organizations that are acting against civilians in a very cruel manner, and this is what is happening in Israel. For the last 2 days.
Do you think that the taking of the hostages will change the IDF's calculation about how it can retaliate?
Well, it's clear that this is an issue that is very sensitive to every Israeli. We showed it also in the past. And I'm sure that Hamas decided to do so in order to get some ammunition or immunity from Israel retaliation. But this is the decisions that the Israeli cabinet need to make. But I think that something important need to be explained these days, because people tend to take this as part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and it's not. I want to say that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is based on a national conflict between two national movements, and it is hopefully solvable. But Hamas, in a way, represents a religious conflict that is not solvable. And I know that there are those saying that using violence, even in a dreadful manner, is the only way to achieve freedom or achievement to your peoples, but this is not the situation in Gaza. Israel left Gaza, we pulled out our forces, we dismantled all the settlements, and in order to get legitimacy and to open Gaza, and now there is no Israeli soldier in Gaza or any settlement, they need to abide or to accept the requirement of the quartet. The entire world, including US and Russia, the UN and EU, said that Hamas can get legitimacy only if they stop, renounce violence and terrorism, accept Oslo Agreement, abide to it, and accept the right of Israel to exist, and they are not willing to do so. So it is important that we'll bear it in mind when people are speaking about what Israel needs to do, and for those of us believing in peace, Hamas is an obstacle to peace. It's not just a tactical matter now, it's a strategic matter.
You pointed out something important, which is this conflict is unlike the 73 one, not between the Arab nations and Israel. And I wanted to know, as a former foreign minister, you must be watching this carefully, what is your sense of the reaction of the Arab countries who would, certainly decades ago, something like this would have happened. One assumes the Arab countries would have cheered on, they would have allowed demonstrations on the streets. I'm struck by the fact that you do not have much of that. I wondered your thoughts on it.
Yes, it's not the first time. We saw the division in our region in the last few years and even more, the division is not between the Arab world and Israel, but it's between the moderates in the region, the more pragmatics, and the extremists, and the religious Islamist group, and rock states like Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it's different camps in a way in the region. And therefore for them, Hamas that represent this kind of religious Islamist ideology of Muslim Brotherhood and others, for them it's not winning something. It's something that can have an impact within their own countries. And therefore it's clear that Hamas doesn't represent any Arab cause and any Palestinian cause. And speaking, if I may, also about the international community, I think that it's time to understand that when this kind of terrorist organization has a political branch and a military branch, it's the same. And we see it with Hamas, with Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are abusing their political power. They are abusing the democratic rules to get more and more power and to abuse it. Sometimes against others, against Israel, to ignite the region, or even against their own citizens. And this is what we see in Gaza and in Lebanon. And therefore, when my expectations from the international community and really the support coming from the international community and the United States and President Biden is touching and important. But let's also speak about the future. I think that it's time to recognize what we are facing, what is the meaning of Hamas and Hezbollah as terrorist organizations that represent unsolvable religious conflict, and not to legitimize their political branch in the future as well.
Tzipi Livni, thank you as always for your perspective on a day of real tragedy for Israel. Thank you.